Hello, good morning. Welcome to day 2 for the Valletta Tech Summit. Here we are in the parallel agenda. A short introduction to our intervention from Miss Melanie De Battista from Malta Enterprise, who is the manager in investment promotion at the Malta Enterprise. She'll be going through some material and a better insight regarding the tech as a hub here in the Mediterranean, in the center, as Malta being in the center of the Mediterranean as well. So thank you, Melanie, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roderick, for the introduction. Please allow me to share my screen. Okay, I think you should be able to see it, right, Roderick?
Correct.
Okay, so again, thanks, Roderick, for the introduction. Thank you, TechMT, for giving us the opportunity to be here today. As Roderick rightly mentioned, the next 15 minutes will be dedicated to myself sharing our experiences when it comes to the tech sector here in Malta, as well as highlighting a number of support opportunities which exist for such sector in Malta. For those of you who do not know Malta Enterprise is the National Economic Development Agency for Malta. We have various roles within our organization, but we can classify them, let's say, under two headings. First of all is that of helping companies which are already established here in Malta. And secondly, we also, another role is that of attracting foreign investment into Malta. How do we do this? We do this in various ways. First of all, there are a number of support measures which we have in place, not only financial support, but we also support companies to actually implement here in Malta. So there are various teams within Malta Enterprise. I believe one very important team is that the implementation team, which helps companies to actually set up here in Malta. I will go through a bit more detail perhaps later on in this presentation. If you look at Malta's economy, you would realize that there are a number of sectors. Traditionally, if you look at Malta back in the 80s, we were more focused on manufacturing, but I think now we've moved, we've developed that sector. We're moving more into manufacturing and industry 4.0. And there are still some sectors which are very, very important to Malta as an economy, such as the life sciences sector, the aviation sector, and a number of other sectors which keep thriving also here in Malta. Over here in this slide, you can also see a number of very important names that we have operating out of Malta. Apart from the more, let's say, traditional sectors, we are also focused on other sectors, like medical tourism is becoming more important. Of course, there's logistics, being that we are in the center of the Mediterranean. Logistics is also a very important element to the Maltese islands. And obviously, then there are other ancillary, but still important sectors like the maritime sector and the educational services, for instance. As Malta Enterprise, what we're aiming at is to keep growing into different sectors in line with SDG goals. So we're looking at growing the blue economy, we're looking at growing the green economy, and obviously anything which is related to innovation, anything which brings us closer to a more sustainable environment. We are very, very happy to be there at the forefront and also assist. Now, moving on into the digital economy, Malta Enterprise is helping a number of companies. They operate in different areas. for instance, fintech, a number of companies which are operating into in the medical technology space. Very recently, we've also approved a number of projects in the metaverse sector. Obviously, everyone is talking about this new buzzword, metaverse, and what we're doing. Definitely, we have quite an interesting number of companies who are looking into Malta, and they are operating within this very particular space. You will realize that some of the names at the bottom of the slide might be familiar to you. Others might also be new, but for instance, we see companies operating in the games development space, like Exient, for instance. We see other companies who are operating in the biometric space, like Trustem, and obviously we keep growing this portfolio of companies which we are hosting here in Malta. Now, excuse me, how does Malta Enterprise come in and help into all of this? Of course, when you are setting up your business in Malta, it's not only important to look at one element of Malta, but I believe these 6 elements here are very important when you are evaluating whether you should come to Malta or not. Definitely, the workforce is a very, very important element. We realize that the sector does have its challenges, not only in Malta, but globally. There is a shortage of skills when it comes to IT and digital skills. But we are proud to say that we actually support these kind of jobs. If you look at our workforce, you would realize that 1/3 of our workforce are expats who are living and working here in Malta. If we had to further analyze that, we would see that most of these people are actually working within the digital innovation space. The reason why they are here, because we also provide a number of personal tax incentives for such people also to consider relocating to Malta. In fact, the slide will give you a better overview of how much the ICT sector is contributing to our economy. We've seen, I think we're faring pretty well, especially when you compare us to the rest of the EU. And obviously, as Malta Enterprise, we are very happy to keep supporting this sector as well. Again, from this slide here, you will realize that we have quite a significant percentage of employment, of employees of our workforce who are employed within our ICT sector as well. And of course, our aim is that to continue growing the amount of people, the amount of workforce here in Malta in the sector. Now, in terms of infrastructure, of course, when you're moving to a new country, you would need to see where you are going to house your new business, what kind of infrastructure there exists, and all that comes with it. First of all, I believe that in terms of infrastructure, in terms of internet infrastructure, Malta is faring pretty well in relation to other Western European jurisdictions. But apart from that, apart from the inherited advantages of our infrastructure, there are also a number of publicly administered spaces which an innovative company can also potentially be looking at. Malta Enterprise administers, for instance, the digital hub at the Life Sciences in San Juan, whereby we have a number of interesting companies housed within this park, and they are operating within the space. One of them, for instance, is Altaro. Then there's also the digital hub in Gozo. Again, it is housing companies like Nouvelle, for instance, and it is also, the rates there are also subsidized by government. A more traditional park is the Mosta Techno Park. However, it is also housing a number of tech companies, such as Stargate, for instance, which is housed within the Mosta Techno Park. And I think one of the recent additions is the Gaming Malta Incubator in Zaytun. This 700 square meter incubator space is targeted towards games development companies, immersive tech companies, and other companies who are looking to make Malta their next home. Of course, if anyone is interested in being housed in any of these publicly administered spaces, Malta Enterprise would be the intermediary to facilitate such allocations. Of course, we cannot do this alone. There's a whole network that we work with, depending on the type of company that we are in touch with. For instance, if we're talking with a medical device company, I believe that the Medicines Authority would be one very important stakeholder there. On the other hand, if we're talking with a fintech company, definitely we liaise and work very closely with Finance Malta to ensure that the company is given full information about the sector and the ways how it can operate. Of course, then there are other very important stakeholders, such as educational institutions like MCAST and the university. And obviously, ultimately, if a tech company is looking to be housed in Malta, we always introduce them and work very closely with TechMT to ensure that they find a good home here in Malta where they can also thrive and develop their business further. Another important element which one shouldn't underestimate is our corporate taxation and also personal taxation. In Malta, there's a very interesting refund mechanism scheme for corporate tax, where essentially corporate tax is set at 35%. However, there's a mechanism where you can also get a refund on that 35%. Over here in the slide, you can also see some detail in relation to personal taxation. I mentioned it very briefly earlier in my presentation, but essentially, if you are a highly qualified employee or a highly technical or skilled employee in Malta, there might be interesting personal schemes which you might wish to have a look and see how best you can benefit from. Now, in terms of support measures, Malta Enterprise is not only there whilst the company is setting up, but our assistance is long-term. So we're there in the setting up phase with the allocation of premises or rent support and also financial assistance. We are there whilst the company is developing through research and development grant and also skills development support. And as the business keeps growing, we keep supporting the company through a number of fiscal and also tax credits. I believe that in the tech sector, most of the companies, or at least the companies which approach us or the innovative companies, most of them would be startups. We have a very interesting package for startup companies, whereby if you are considered as a highly innovative company, you can benefit from up to 800,000 euros. This 800,000 euros is in the form of a repayable advance. It is only repayable once the company starts registering profits in Malta. And the premium which is charged on this particular scheme is 2 or 3% over the European Central Bank rate. So obviously, if you're comparing it to other instruments, to other financial instruments which are available in the market, I would say that it is very, very advantageous. Also because all of Malta's enterprise schemes are non-dilutive, so we do not take any equity for the money, for the support which we give to companies. And that is also something very interesting for startups who many of the times do not want to give up equity, especially in the first few years of their company's life. This particular scheme can mainly support payroll. So if the company is looking to have a talent pool here in Malta, we can, Malta Enterprise can come in and support up to 75% of payroll costs. We can also consider supporting procurement of tangible and intangible assets. We can also support working capital requirements, and also if the company is looking to raise any third-party financing, whether that's through crowdfunding or any other way traditional ways of raising capital, we can also consider coming in and match funding up to 50%. If the company is still in its initial phases, then they can also consider business start, which essentially can be used to support the drafting of a business plan and other consultancies which the company might need in order to put everything together and perhaps approach other investors at that point. Then the company can also consider a business development scheme, which again is at €100,000, and this time it is a grant. And if it is let's say a new company which is looking to relocate to Malta, we can definitely consider supporting relocation costs and also recruitment costs. Of course, the kind of assistance that we give to startups largely depend on the nature of the startup and also the kind of project which they have for Malta. Obviously, the more innovative the project is, the more our decision to support such a project. Of course, there are not only startup companies, there are perhaps more advanced companies who have already operations in place and might be looking at different ways how Malta Enterprise can come in and support. The 3 schemes which I have on screen now shall shortly be relaunched. But we can say, I think one of the most popular schemes over here is the investment aid, or it used to be called investment aid. This will be rebranded very, very shortly. However, in this particular scheme, Malta Enterprise can come in and support up to 30% of capital expenditure or payroll costs that the company has here in Malta. This can be given in the form of a cash grant if the project hasn't yet started, or if the company is approaching Malta Enterprise at a later stage, we can also consider tax credits. Of course, I wouldn't also underestimate the potential which loan guarantees and interest rate subsidies might have for the cash flow of the company. Other funding opportunities are there within Malta Enterprise. For instance, one of them is the soft loan, whereby Malta Enterprise can come in and support by up to €1 million here for projects which are implementable within 18 months. And obviously, we can support also various costs there. Another important scheme, which I am aware of the time, but I think it's worth mentioning and spending a few minutes here, is the skills development scheme, whereby we are supporting companies to upskill their workforce. This supports both in-house and outsourced training. And Malta Enterprise can come in and support up to 70% of those costs. This is not only available for companies who are starting up, but it is also available for companies who have been, in operation for a number of years. And again, if the company is doing a number of research and development initiatives here in Malta, there are also R&D grants specifically targeted towards research and development. For instance, the first grant is the Exploratory Research Grant, which supports feasibility studies for research and development. As soon as the company goes through that stage and they are doing industrial or experimental research, then Malta Enterprise can also come in and support this kind of projects. If the company is working with an academic institution like the University of Malta or any other university, our aid intensity, our support can also go up to 80%. So it's a very interesting scheme, especially if you're considering doing research and development out of Malta. So those are the schemes which are administered by Malta Enterprise. Given that Malta is a new member state, of course, then there are a number of other EU funding schemes which are available for companies who are operating from Malta. But if you look at all these schemes together, the company might be benefiting from a very interesting package essentially. Okay, so I think that was it from my end. I'm not sure whether there are any questions, Roderick. I am aware of the time, but of course,
yes, we've got 5 minutes approximately for any questions and answers that can be forwarded. But if there are none, I take this opportunity to thank you, Melanie, again for your intervention in this event. Thanks for the great work Malta Enterprise is doing in the regards of supporting the local businesses, being in tech sector and many other sectors. Of course, the latest results show that the tech sector has increased quite substantially here in Malta, and that gives us all the boost, let's say, to keep on doing what we do and support the tech sector as much as we can. So I thank you again for your intervention, and okay.
Thank you very much, Roderick. Of course, if there are any questions or anyone would like to contact us separately, we'd be very happy to discuss on a one-to-one basis the opportunities which exist through Malta Enterprise. Again, thank you very much, Takamti, for organizing this and for giving us the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good day.